You're right. We're almost ready, guys. I'm working out some bugs. I'm trying something new here. Okay. Almost ready. Okay. I don't know why this isn't working. Oh, yeah, I do. Okay. So this thing's still really early on. Sound check. I got Twitch, I got YouTube, and I have Instagram going. Check, check, sound check. Locking in this color right now. This thing's really early on still, so we got a long road. Got a ways to go here. What's up, Joe? I gotta remember to keep the canvas in the middle. People on Instagram can't see it. Thanks, dude. Yeah, I'm thinking, it's real crude right now, but I'm thinking, like, I remember that scene in the movie where Selena Kyle first loses her mind and it's like drenched in this pink neon. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about. And it'll play well against these teals and blues. that are gonna live on her face in these cool colors. I think it'll look pretty rad. I think so. We'll see how it goes. Especially the blue in her eyes. I don't think so. Let's see here. Let me push in. It has a little bit. It's, you know what it really is? It's just like a squashed circle. So like if this is your circle, I just take it and I squish it. But the difference is I also turn on tilt under shape dynamics and angle jitter, and then basically, hold on one sec. When I set it up a certain way, when I can rotate the brush, so I can get it to go horizontal or vertical just by turning my wrist a little bit. That brush has a little bit of like an edge jitter to it. That's really the only difference. Besides it, but it's mostly just a squashed circle. Do you see that edge? It's not, unless I really refine it or press down. It's kind of has like a rough edge to it, which is kind of neat. But I do have brushes like what you're describing. Like, let me think. There's one here like this. This brush is kind of rad. See that? Like it's mostly solid on one side and then it kind of tapers. I like using that for skin. That's how I got the penguin skin to look the way I did, is I use that brush a lot. I got a lot of different types of tricks and stuff in my toolkit here. There's this thing, which is pretty cool. This thing's pretty juicy too. This is really nice for nice subtle transitions. This one too. Ooh, that's real nice, silky but textured. Yeah. It's sort of a process in the beginning. Like I like to use simpler brushes and then to add a little bit of flavor. Once I reach a certain point, I'll start using more textured stuff, but only until I've gotten the foundation really solid. If that makes sense. Because like texture brushes can get away from you. They can sort of muddy up the paint a little bit. So it's good to sort of figure out the right time to start using those things. Yeah, my mine too. On Procreate and Photoshop, I have about 300 more brushes than I actually regularly use. Like if I open this, I've got all these different things, right? But the reality is, the ones I use the most, it's probably about 10. And then sometimes there's these circumstance where you go hunting for a certain thing, and then it's in the it's in the rarely used set. But that's why I keep them, because sometimes they do prove useful, and I never know when that's gonna happen. So, but the thing is like it's these first maybe 4 rows that I use the most. Maybe 5 rows. Yeah. That's why they're in my main drawing and painting category, so to speak. Right here. And even then, there's a bunch in there that I don't always use. They're just like more frequently than the rest, I guess. So far, the multi-stream is going well. Seems to be functioning correctly, which is good. I had some worries around that. No. I ended up using Restream because I think weirdly for the basic tier, it offered more places to stream, and I think at a higher quality, if I'm not mistaken. So I thought I'd try for now just Restream, and then if it ends up not working well, I might try StreamYard. But I think this one gave me 4 if I wanted, and I'm doing 3 right now, 3 different simulcasts. Yeah, I mean, I think they're basically the same service. One may be better at one thing over the other, and depending on your needs, that's who you should probably go with. Because I think pricing wise, they're pretty close to being the same. Actually, I think part of the reason I also did is the monthly, because I didn't want to sign up for a year. The monthly is cheaper on Restream. I think. I could be wrong about that. What's up, Angel? Thanks, man. Thanks, Darren. Thanks for popping in. Have a good night. I don't think tonight's going to be super long. Maybe we'll do... We're definitely not going to finish this tonight. So there's a good chance you'd be able to catch it some other night. Because we got a long road on this gal still. But I wanted to get it started. Or I didn't start it on the stream either, but I wanted to do a little bit of time on here. Started this on my iPad, actually. Speaking of which... What's happening? Why isn't it working? Oh. Need to res this thing up. Let's go 30. All right. Let me work on her skin a bit. Maybe what we do is this. come back to that idea. Let's keep it simple for now. That looks a little weird. really hard to do because it's very reflective. Gotta worry about that pink after I master the values on her. I'm getting caught up on the wrong stuff right now. Oh, hey man, sorry, I didn't see you. I'm trying out this new, sorry dude, I'm trying out this new multi-stream thing and I have like three chats happening and I have to figure out how to figure out how to put them all in one. But hey, thanks for dropping in. You take care. Did I get a haircut? I may have. I think I did, yes. And also, I'm not wearing my headphones. I've got some earbuds in, so my head looks less big. praised. Solid move. Save this. Actually, no, we're gonna do that right now. Hey, what's up, man? Thanks. Try something. Oof. That's a bit much. I gotta figure out a way to make this texture of her garment feel correct. This is tough. This is gonna be a fun challenge. It has to do with how reflective yet textured it appears. There is like a subtle, blurry texture to it. Oh, I just have an idea. Let's see. Let me see how this guy works. Yeah, that might be it. Son of a bitch. It's too hot, but it's sort of getting what I want out of it. This has to be more controlled. It's going to be something that I'm going to try again after this painting is further along, but I want to experiment. Start thinking about what I'll do later. And then I slap that pink on top so that it picks up the materials of the environment. Okay. Photoshop? Why? Tilt broke. I don't know why it does that. It's very frustrating. That's kind of neat, actually. Oh yeah, thanks for the follow. Art by Monica. Like I said before, there ain't no way I'm finishing this tonight. I can't stay up too late and got things to do tomorrow. So there will be a part 2 and possibly a part 3 of this. But we're gonna work through it together. This fucking mask is gonna be, it's gonna be a good one. It's gonna be a good challenge. This thing is hard to paint. So it's kind of a different muscle. Thank you, Art by Monica. It's so I got multiple chats running here, folks. I'm gonna say the question. I'm gonna try to remember to say the question so that everybody can understand what the hell I'm talking about. So Kevin Comics asks, how much harder is it to draw a known face like an actor versus creating a new face? It's kind of a different muscle, because when I'm drawing like a face of a guy, it's just kind of like I resort back to like all the fundamentals I know of how to build a skull with flesh on it and blah blah blah, and I have a default face that I tend to draw, and everybody does that because like it usually ends up looking like the artist because they know their face better than they know anybody else's, unless you like actively conscientiously think about making it look different. But drawing a known actor is challenging because even the uninitiated can, if they've seen that actor, they can know in almost an instant that it's off if you don't nail the likeness, which means you have to be extra particular with your proportions and everything like that. They may not even know how to tell you something's wrong. They just know that it's off. Someone as famous as like Michelle Pfeiffer, or pick a famous actor now. Like if you don't absolutely nail the likeness, people are gonna know. So, to answer your question, it's harder to draw someone who's well known than it is to just draw a face. But I've been practicing likenesses for like 20-something years, so I think when I was pretty much in my early 20s, I became fascinated with portraiture and likenesses. So basically been doing that ever since. And by the way, when I draw somebody else, I have reference. I'm not doing this from memory. I'm not a wizard. Just in case there's any confusion about that. Like, it's usually a couple pieces of reference, or maybe it's one specific look or whatever. Like, I don't know anybody who can nail someone else's likeness from memory. At least when they're trying to be really realistic about it, which I am here, so. But what I try to do when I do this is I try to use it as a guide just to make sure I get the likeness correct, and then put a little extra flourish on it. I would have thought it would be harder to create something from scratch because there's no reference. Well, when you get used to drawing like heads, you kind of just, I don't know, take like one thing comic book artists have to watch when they do it, because they draw heads so much, or they draw characters from memory so much, and they're not necessarily dependent on a likeness, is a lot of times their characters will all end up looking the same. And you know, I know like the biggest and the best have been accused of that, and it's just because they're not really, they're kind of on autopilot when they do it, and they have to draw so many different characters and stuff. But once you learn how to draw a head competently, there's methods to drawing a head. So when you learn how to do it and you figure out what works for you, you kind of just do it that way as a foundation every time. Art by Monica says, I feel like the hardest part to me is lighting. If you have a reference, yeah, but drawing someone's likeness with no reference is really tough. It is. It's really hard to make up a likeness when you don't have to make up something when you don't have good reference for it, because lighting is so complex and people's individual characteristics are really different and varied. But one thing that helps is when you know how to draw a head, you can get used to the planes of the face, and once you've laid down the likeness pretty well, you can start embellishing the light on different planes of the face, like the top of the head or the side of the head or something like that. Maybe one of these days, Kevin, I'll get the Silver Surfer. That'd be a reflection nightmare. I'm already having a hard enough time trying to draw this shiny leather on Selena here. Let me try to give you an example. I'm not at the stage where I want to start pushing the lights yet. I just kind of want to nail the oh shit, what's happening here? I'm still trying to nail the what in the world? I'm still trying to figure out the shape of this woman's head with all this shiny leather. It's really, really hard. So there is, I'm trying to give an example of something I've done where I kind of made up the lighting on a person that's, oh, I know an example. 1 second. Hold on, I gotta dig through my files, so I gotta put on my blinder right now in case I come across something stream should see. 1 second. I use OBS, but I'm using Restream to stream the the stream to multiple platforms. So the question is, what app am I using to stream right now? So I don't know if you're still there, Monica, but I did this Fantastic Four poster for the movie, and the lighting on the sides of their heads and stuff, that didn't really exist in the reference I used for the actors. So I made that stuff up. But because I know roughly the shape of Pedro's head after painting the likeness, I can push that stuff to a degree. And the same with like her hair and Johnny, like you could, like his hand really wasn't on fire, obviously. So I was able to embellish that and have that bouncing off the side of his face because I roughly knew the shapes of his face by that point. Anyway. Yeah, so StreamYard's pretty rad. I was just talking to a friend on the stream earlier about that. I opted for Restream because I think it allowed me to go to more platforms with their basic paid tier, their first tier. So I'm doing 3 right now. I think that one only allowed 2, and like there might have been less limitation with resolution. I'm not sure. I'm still figuring it out though, but I thought I'd try Restream this time for now. It's funny you bring that up though. I was literally just talking about that 5 minutes ago. Maybe 15 minutes ago. Thank you, Monica. But, okay, so you saw I just made this sort of big, bold move with the light, right? That's like a really good way to get a sense of your, of the planes of the head. Like, just commit to that shape, and now it starts to feel like light is hitting the side of her head more. It's very crude at the moment, but from here I can sort of refine it and, you know, hopefully make it more accurate. The trick is to go big strokes first and kind of zoom in a little bit at a time and sort of detail it in. The rub here is that her mask is shiny patent black leather, and it's really, really tough to make that feel correct. So this is going to take some time. Oh no way. A mouse? That's like drawn with a potato, dude. Are you out of your mind? No, man. Right now I have a Wacom tablet, Intuos, which is basically my hand is down here drawing while I'm looking at the screen. But when I really gotta get crazy, I have a Cintiq that I can pull in front of me. You can't see it. You see the back of it right now. It's covering up my head. But I basically pull that in front of me, and it's like a giant iPad that I draw on, and it has a stylus, a highly pressure-sensitive stylus. Basically like drawing with a pen or a pencil or a paintbrush. No, there's no way I could do this with a mouse. I'm gonna pull my hair out. Like, it's pressure sensitive. I'll show you what I mean. Yeah, watch. Like, I could take this, depending on the brush I'm using and the properties that are set up for it, like, I can gently brush that in. Or I can really push down and get a really hard line. You know? You could even do it with line weight too. Like, if I grab this brush, the value of it will vary, and the line width. So you see how it goes from thick to thin? Like, I have full control over that. I could just kiss the surface and just make these little marks where I can really push in. And then if I use the monitor, it's even better. It's even more precise. But in the early stages of painting, I kind of like to be further back from my art, because it makes it so that I can paint more holistically and accurately, and my hand isn't in the way. That's why traditional paintbrushes are so long, is so you can stand back and see the whole image. That's also why I zoom in and out a hell of a lot, because I'm trying to like take the thing in as a whole. Like you see how that works when it's really, really small? That's how I know it works. That's how I know the whole image is working, because I can see the whole thing at once. When you're in here painting the iris of an eyeball, you can't tell. If you stay in there, it's hard to tell how that affects the whole thing. So you gotta bounce in and out a lot. That's why I do that. That's why I'm constantly doing this shit. So that I make a mark and then I look at it from the whole. And I make a mark and then I look at it from the whole. You know, like right now I'm looking at this black dot on her cheek. That looks ridiculous. That's how I know that doesn't work as a rendering. So then I adjust. You know, I kind of soften it so it doesn't look quite as harsh. And then I back out. It's like, oh, that kind of works better. That's why I'm constantly, it's probably really like, I don't know, frenetic watching me go in and out of the image like that, but that is why I do it. It's going to be fun when I really dial in these reflections and then start. Thanks, man. And then I start putting the stitches on her face. That's going to be a hoot. I'm saving that for later. You know, you say digital techniques, and you're not wrong, but also that's a really traditional way to approach it. Like that technique really comes from traditional painting, because again, the big fat brushes that you start a painting with when you oil paint, the handles are, you know, 18 inches long. It's so you can stand back from the work and sort of do this with it. And the little brushes, the detail brushes, that's why those are so short, because you're meant to be up on the piece by that point. You don't want to start a painting with that little brush. You'd be there. First of all, it probably won't work out for you. You'll be there forever. Yeah. And that's also why I flip a painting like so that I can see it. It can be easier to see your mistakes that way. Oh yeah, the zooming in and out. Yeah, it's essentially it. It's just like, you know, color theory and all that stuff is the same, whether it's on a screen or in oils. It does make it easier to mess with colors, though, with using digital tools, to be fair. Like, I'm not against letting Photoshop be Photoshop. Because, you know, again, I come from a commercial background where it's like, get the job done. No one gives a shit how you do it. It's these little exercises that I insist on practicing that keep me sharp, I think. Do you have to do it? I don't think so. I'm sure there's plenty of people who just do it their own way, but yeah. There is something to be said, though, about having traditional training, I think. Because I think it cultivates a discipline. This mask is really tough. This is going to require like a lot of time and concentration. I am not on autopilot for this one, folks. You see me go quiet, that's why. I'm really trying to figure this thing out. Really hot, like right here. Something like that. Blues in there too. It's like a weird milky cloudy surface where some edges are harsh or sharp and some edges are soft. Some edges are sort of soft. Okay. I think it's starting to happen. And then I'm gonna get to the damn stitches, and that's gonna be a fucking hoot. What did I do there? I can't even tell what the hell I'm doing. Is that her nose? Too much. Uh-huh. That's interesting. Oh. Starting to happen. This is pretty crude still, but I think it's gonna bias a lot. Especially when I slap the pink on top, which will require another pass of refinement. But I just need to worry about my values for now. Sorry, I might have said this already. Do you have her mask as its own separate layer? That way you don't accidentally paint over any other parts of the... So I did. I was working up her mask first, and Photoshop has this cool thing where you can have a layer and you paint on that layer, and you can create another layer and clip that layer to the layer underneath it. And what that allows you to do is work out the shape of the mask, and then you can clip another layer to it where it only affects the pixels on that layer, and you can start rendering and sort of bringing out the forms of the mask. So to answer your question, yes, I did that initially, but I'm sort of past that now. I may actually do that again and kind of sort of separate them. But yeah, I do find that it's helpful to do that, which is also why I haven't added the stitches. Because once I get all the really important stuff, like the form of her mask and the reflections and shit like that done, it'll be a lot easier to paint accurately the stitches on without them being in the way of all the stuff that really matters. The stitches they're just that. They're like a little accent, essentially. They're so tertiary to the overall shape and form. Yeah. So you're watching on Instagram, so I'll just bring this over to the center. Whoops. So you can see it right here. This is the main base of... I like to merge stuff down every so often as I go, so that's not the first layer. But this layer right here, these things are clipped to it. So if I paint on this layer right here, it will stay only painting on the shape that I have for Selena. I'll show you what I mean. Whoops. So let me grab a really ridiculous color so it stands out, as to make an example. Look, you see how it doesn't go outside the shape of Selena? Because I have a layer clipped to it. So what I would do, what I did initially is I painted painted the whole head, and then I decided, well, this is going to be the mask shape, and I painted the mask and tried to figure out the proportions, and then I created another layer and clipped it to the mask layer, and I've been working that up ever since. I'm still working it up. We still got a ways to go, but these reflections suck. But yeah, that's basically how that works. Does that make sense? Right on. So I mean, I think like it's really messy still, and I really normally wouldn't have the speculate, like the hot reflections in there, but it's so critical to her and her garment that I had to approximate it for now. I feel like I wasn't getting it right without just putting that in there a little bit. And even like there's like this little shiny edge on the back of the mask. But I think it's getting to the point where it's starting to feel somewhat correct. So I will not do that anymore tonight. And probably just work on her flesh a little bit more before I call it. What's up, Aaron? And by the way, Jason, that clipping mask thing is one of those things that has its roots in traditional media, in that people will mask things off in a painting so that they can be real precise with the shapes that they create. However, that is definitely a moment of letting Photoshop be Photoshop. Use Photoshop. We're doing this thing. We're doing this Photoshop thing. Just use it. Because obviously that makes the job of coloring in the lines just so much easier. And what's great is like what's really powerful about that is if that wasn't part of the toolkit, you might struggle to you'll be less free with how you make your marks. Like, you know, I was able to make this big sort of light shape that's still messy, but it allowed me to approximate and be bold and not be afraid that I was going to color outside the lines. You know, just kind of make that whoosh shape that, from a broad stroke perspective, really approximated the light direction well. And because I can clip it to the shape underneath, I don't got to worry about it. I just do it. You know, I'm not fighting it. I'm not like, oh, going in there and weaselly sort of, oh, I don't want to mess it up. It's like, you know, like that's the kind of shit that you do when you get scared. Like, it's these little things. You don't want to be scared of your painting. And this is something I still work through every time I sit down to paint. Is like there's so much fear with a blank canvas. So yeah, like those little things when you get used to using them, it allows you to be more bold, and the brush strokes will feel more fresh and less labored and less tired, and like the side of her head's kind of mushy right now, but yeah, you don't want to fight the painting. That's kind of neat, actually, what I just did there. Oh, I have an idea. Gonna kick that back a little bit. I mean, it's yeah, I mean, in my view, digital is supreme because you can do anything with it. It obviously has its drawbacks, but when it comes to the act of just making art and using your knowledge of edge control and contrast and color theory and shape design and shape language and all these things, digital's range of capabilities is the widest of all the mediums. And for the more inexperienced person, you can certainly be paralyzed and be harmed by the lack of confines, I should say. But I've been doing this a while. I like it. Exactly, and that's why it's used in a commercial setting. Like, it's absolutely unsurpassed when it comes to editability and appeasing clients, that's for sure. Oh, that's ugly. Bear with me. But even though when you zoom in, right, like, well, this is a mess and blah blah blah, and this is pretty rough and all that stuff. When you zoom out, look at the read. That's what we want. We want it to be delicious from the read. And because when you start getting it to a place where it all is pretty legible from small, well, the rendering is just, you're on easy street from there. So, like this right here is, it's starting to happen. And like, there's this fancy, this is another Photoshop being Photoshop moment, but they have these things called gradient maps, which allow you to control the color of something really easily based on the value underneath. So, you know, fuck it, I'll just start that over. I want to make the pink really pop from the environment on her. So, I'll show you what I'm going to do. Just start painting in the pink areas where I think her outfit would receive. You know, but I do want to maintain some of that greenish blue in the middle. Teal, I suppose. Yeah, I mean, again, we're not going to finish this tonight, but look at the read. And this is also why I back it out, because then I'm like, oh, that doesn't quite look like I want it to from... And I can recognize that when I zoom out a bit. Maybe I want this line here to be pink. Well, here we go. We just make it pink. Maybe I want that whole side of her nose to be pink. That could be kind of cool. That could work. We might be onto something here. Maybe I want to punch this up. Yeah, I got one even better. There's a little technique. I don't know if I developed it, but it's something I've been using a long time. Stand by. This shit's wild for lighting. Not only do I overwrite the colors to the color I want, I can start pumping the values and really making them pop. I'm doing it fast and dirty here, so it's not gonna be as accurate as I want it to, but I just want to show you this cool trick. The side of her head's really lumpy. Hold on a second. Let's fix that right quick. What the? Hold up. There we go. Yeah, I mean, so this is kind of giving you a preview of where I'm possibly going to take this as we get into the later stages. I would be saving this part for the end game, but I figure since you're curious, I'll give you an idea, because I'm not entirely satisfied with the more important foundational elements of the piece yet, and I don't like to get ahead of myself. But, you know, this is a good little note-taking moment, like, oh, what if it looks like this? Look at a little experiment. It could look like this. You know, put a little bit of that on her lips there, and you see I can do that because I roughly understand the shapes of her face, even though the lighting isn't necessarily like that. Look at that. Eh? 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 Oh, my pleasure. Isn't often people really want to get into the weeds on this stuff, so I like showing it sometimes. They like to look at the end product, but they're like, yeah, just paint the damn thing. Who cares? I don't care. I don't want to know. But, you know, if it was looking like she was pasted on before, you know, like that, that's why, because I was saving the juicy bits. Look at the fucking difference it makes. Ooh, I'm getting excited. Oh, so good. Love it. And then you get in there and you're like, oh, what about on the eyes? What happens when that color interacts with her eyes? You know, that sort of shit. You're like, oh, man. Right? Eyelids. The part of her mask right there. These little moments that you can get, that you can find under her eyelid, blah, blah, blah. You know, that's a bit bad, but you get the idea. So, I'm gonna stop soon. And we're gonna pick this up, I don't know, tomorrow or something. And I'm gonna work up the rest of her first, and then I'm gonna go in there and basically, I think that this is gonna be the end game. Like, this is pretty much what it will look like. Potentially. Whoa, hello. Potentially. You know. Let me try one more thing. Satisfy my curiosity here. Oh, look how that feels really nice. Just carry that down into the neck, get into the jaw. Yeah. Dude, don't ever apologize for the questions. I'm happy to elaborate. It's just most people don't ask. That's why I don't. I just sit here and I do my thing. I think people get afraid to ask. I don't know why. Why else would I be doing this shit if I didn't want people to interact? I could paint by myself. You know? I don't need to turn on the stream to get it done. Oh, damn, that looks pretty good already. Shit. Hot shit. So the inspiration for the pink is the scene, I may have said this already, is the scene where Selena first sort of goes off the deep end in her apartment, and she starts putting together the suit, and then like there's a shot of her, the reveal of the Catwoman, where it says like "Hell Here" in the background in pink neon, and she says, "I don't know about you, Miss Kitty, but I feel so much yummier." The pink looks so rad in that scene, playing off of her suit and the blues and stuff. Yeah. So that's why we're doing this. And there's obviously a really rough, blocked in, like, blurry alleyway as a background. So having a good time. I should stop because I'm tired and I got shit to do tomorrow. So here's something funny that I also like to do, is the specularity in her eyes. I do prefer to keep that on a separate layer so that I can detail the eyes without the specularity getting ruined. But the specularity is what gives the eye life. It's like the final piece of the puzzle that makes eyes feel so much more realistic. So you can see I could toggle those on and off. And like it's still her eye, but it doesn't feel the same without it. It's like that's the life. Yeah, exactly. The literal light in the eye, yeah. So I always put that on a separate layer. I don't even it's also something I don't paint until later. Because it's those shiny moments, which is also why I usually don't paint like that crazy lighting until the end. But I did it here because I wanted to take you through it. But because it's those shiny moments that can detract from the very important foundational elements of a portrait or a painting. Like, you got to save the good stuff for later. So I'm going to turn that off. I'm going to be disciplined. And we're going to come back to that. Ha ha ha. I mean, truth be told, some of this stuff no one gives a shit about but me, because it's, you know, this thing was probably passable already. But again, I don't. These aren't for clients. These are for me, and it's a means for me to work out, so to speak, and have some fun and do something for me. So I'm doing it for me. Also got to turn off that too. I mean, yes and no. I just mean to say, like, I would imagine many people would say, "Oh, it looks great. What are you worried about? Like, you don't got to do any more than that." But like, and they might be right. I don't know how much that extra effort actually buys me when it comes to other people looking at it, but you know, these exercises are for me. It's to push myself. So yeah, I think that's correct. Although you can overwork a painting, and I've definitely done that, where it ends up looking bad. It's overworked. It's overcooked, as they say. And honestly, that's only something you learn to avoid through experience. And I think I'm experienced enough to where I don't overcook things as much these days. Do you find that you overwork stuff? Yeah. It's okay. So, going back to the zooming in and zooming out thing, that is one of the ways you prevent that over rendering. So, be zoomed in way like, oh, I'm really getting on this cheekbone here, and then you look at the rest, you're like, the rest of the painting doesn't match the level of effort. That's why you want to work up the whole thing as you go, bit by bit, to prevent that overworked feeling. Because when you start considering the thing as a whole, that's when you can not over render certain areas. And the benefit of not over rendering certain areas is that they don't draw focus. You want the most important stuff in your composition to receive the most effort, and to sort of let everything else from there sort of dither away or wither, or like gradate down away. You notice that the background isn't nearly as detailed as Selena is. And you might even notice that this part of her suit is a black fucking shape with some marks on it. That is by design. I don't know what the fuck that is. That's a mistake. Hold on. Let's get rid of that. A little dot there. So you might notice that like this is a black shape with some marks on it. Whereas like her eyes are so much more intricate. That comes from zooming in and zooming out and zooming in and zooming out and making decisions and not over rendering certain areas. It's easy to make those decisions, to be fair, with a face, because it's like, yeah, you render the eyes, you render the mouth, you render the nose, you render the features. But as things get away from those parts, you start to let the detail slide. It's the painting equivalent of depth of field, essentially. That's why things look so good when there's nice depth of field, because your brain just settles on exactly where the artist wanted it to, and there's a connection there. That's also why this line is too hot. It's kind of distracting, and that's something I will fix as I move through the painting. In fact, I'll do it right now. Just kind of tamp it down a little bit. You know? Maybe make it blue too. Let's let teal. But like, you see that difference? It doesn't take away from where you should be looking as much. Yeah. But like, this black shape gives you enough to know what it's supposed to be approximately. And to be truth be told, as I move through this, I'll probably work that up a little bit more. I'll make sure that those stitches and stuff, you know, are a little bit more clear, but it's not really what I want you looking at anyway, so I'm not going to go ham. I want you looking right here. Basically, this eye is the most important thing. This section right here. You know, if I draw a circle around it. Basically, this area right here is like the good stuff. You know? She literally has a circle around it too. Because of her mask, but yeah. Anyway, I can't wait to paint with her skin and add some more color variation and do some cool shit, and then refine that pink stuff. It's gonna be a hoot. We're gonna keep that there though, just off. But again, you know, one more time from back here. Hey, it looks pretty cool. But like here, it's a fuzzy mess that I just roughly laid in some stuff on. I mean, sometimes the fuzzy mess is all you need, but like, I wasn't real careful with how I placed it on her chin, on her jawline. Wasn't real careful about any of this. But hey, right there, huh? Eh? I was a little more careful on this side because I was trying some shit out, but yeah. Yeah, we're gonna come back to that. It's gonna be cool. Anywho, I gotta walk the dog. I gotta get a shower. I gotta go to sleep. I gotta get the hell out of here. Yeah. Thanks, man. I'm glad you're finding it interesting. You might be the only person in here. This guy's still talking? More painting, less talking. Anyway, thanks for hanging out. I will talk to you soon. Have a good night.